Arlington 911, what are you reporting?
Yeah, I saw a black pickup, and he grabbed a little girl and he took off toward town with her. And she hollered.
I had seen that little girl over there playing up and down there, and he run up behind her and grabbed her. He turned around and come right back to here where his truck was, where the door was open, and put her in the truck.
This was right after the abduction of little Amber Hagerman. She was just 9 years old and loved riding her bike. One day, while she was out cycling in broad daylight, something terrible happened. She was abducted. You might have seen those Amber Alert notifications on your phone, right? Well, Amber is the reason they exist. Sadly, Amber never made it back home alive. Her kidnapper killed her, and the worst part is, nobody knows who did it. The person who took her life is still out there, somewhere, possibly even walking among us. Her story really gripped the whole nation and spurred a change that probably saved the lives of thousands of other children.
Celebrate a little girl being found alive. Police tracked down Salem Sabatka. The little girl's kidnapping story not only touched us, it reminded us all just how important the Amber Alert system is. Those alerts have saved hundreds of children over the years.
Amber's mom, heartbroken but strong, made a vow. She promised that Amber's death wouldn't be for nothing.
Amber desperately needs justice. I'm not going to give up on her. Never. It still feels like it was yesterday. It's still raw. It still hurts.
Amber's legacy lives on through the Amber Alert, named after her. In the months after her disappearance, her family, police, the community, and the media came up with the alert to get information out quickly in child abduction cases.
The Amber Alert, I'm very, very proud of it because it is help saving our children's lives. It's helped bringing our children back to mommy and daddy.
Even though it's been 28 years and her case is still unsolved, that promise has turned into a legacy that alerts us every time a child is in danger. Amber Hagerman was just a regular kid, born in 1987 to Donna Whitson and Richard Hagerman in Arlington, Texas. This town, nestled between Dallas and Fort Worth, was her playground. It was the kind of place where everyone felt safe, a true suburban area with a big GM plant where a lot of people worked, including some of Amber's neighbors. Amber was the kind of girl who loved to scout around and ride her bike, and she had a special love for butterflies. Her little brother Ricky came into the world in 1991, and he was just as lively. Before all the darkness came, their family was just trying to make ends meet, and even participated in a TV production showing how they were working hard to get off welfare. Amber's 9th birthday is just a few days away, but for the time being, she was focused on school. The intelligent little girl also does her best to assist her mother around the house. The mother and daughter have a remarkable relationship, which the documentary team records on several occasions.
Look, Mom, I made this for you.
Thank you, that's pretty. Dear Mom, this is for you that I made at school. I love you a lot. Love, Amber.
On a sunny yet slightly hot day, January 13th, 1996, Amber and Ricky were over at their grandparents' house in Arlington. The kids had spent the day playing at a park and grabbing lunch at Burger King. Later that afternoon, they arrived at their grandparents, Glenda and Jimmy Whitson's home. Feeling adventurous, at a little after 3 p.m., Amber, who was 9, and 5-year-old Ricky asked if they could go ride their bikes outside. Their bikes were always kept at their grandparents' place, ready for them. So, with a strict instruction to stick close by, Amber and Ricky were allowed to ride around the block, nothing more. But kids will be kids, and the thrill of the ride took over. Ignoring the boundary set by the adults, they went off to an abandoned Winn-Dixie parking lot nearby. It wasn't far, less than a third of a mile away, about 1.5 to 2 blocks from where their grandparents lived. This parking lot had a ramp that children often played on, making it a local hangout spot despite its abandonment. The area was kind of a mix, with houses on one side and businesses, including a laundromat, on the other. It was just another day, another ride, but no one could have guessed the turn of events that were about to unfold in that seemingly mundane place. So Ricky had just made one loop around the parking lot and told Amber they needed to head home. He didn't want to get into any trouble. But Amber wasn't ready to leave. She was having too much fun and wanted to ride her bike a little longer. With a heavy heart, Ricky headed back home alone. When he got there, Amber's grandparents immediately noticed her absence and asked Ricky where his sister was. He told them she was still out riding her bike. Concerned, they sent him back to bring her home. But when Ricky got to the parking lot, it was empty. Amber was nowhere to be seen. Panicking, Ricky pedaled as fast as he could back home and burst through the door yelling, "Sissy's gone!" Without a moment to lose, Amber's father joined the frantic search. The last time Ricky saw her, she was just around the corner, no more than 2 blocks away. They looked everywhere, but Amber had vanished into thin air. However, there was one person who had seen exactly what happened.
Arlington 911, what are you reporting?
Yeah, I saw a black pickup, and he grabbed a little girl and he took off toward town with her. And she hollered.
I had seen that little girl over there playing up and down there, and he run up behind her and grabbed her. He turned around and come right back to here where his truck was, where the door was open, and put her in the truck.
Jim Kevill, a 78-year-old retired machinist, was working in his backyard, which overlooked the abandoned parking lot. He witnessed a heart-stopping scene. A young girl, Amber, was riding her colorful bike up and down the ramp, enjoying her afternoon. Suddenly, a dark blue or black pickup truck pulled up. A man jumped out, rushed towards Amber, and in one swift move, grabbed her and forced her into his truck. Amber struggled, kicked, and let out a blood-curdling scream, but it was of no use. The truck sped away, turning west on East Abram Street. Jim wasted no time and called 911 right away. The police arrived at the scene in less than 3 minutes, but it was already too late. They found no trace of Amber, just her abandoned bike lying there as a stark reminder of the tragedy that had just unfolded. The community was left in shock, grappling with the sudden and mysterious disappearance of little Amber. So after Amber vanished, every second became precious. The man who took her could be driving further away by the minute. In a flurry of action, Donna, Amber's mom, started reaching out to friends and family to spread the word. She had flyers made with Amber's picture, hoping that someone would recognize her daughter and come forward. As the news of the kidnapping spread, neighbors and strangers alike began to gather, forming a search party that grew larger with each passing hour. People who just wanted to help showed up in droves at Donna's house. Amidst this, a chilling thought crossed their minds. The kidnapper could be easily among them, and they wouldn't even know it. As the hours ticked by, Donna's fear escalated. She was terrified that they might never find Amber. But amidst the fear, there was a spark of strategy. The family saw the media coverage as a vital tool. They thought that if Amber's picture was everywhere, more people might spot her and provide clues.
We want her back.
Thank you. Don't hurt my little girl.
The search in the immediate area does go on, although police say the reality is if this alleged kidnapper was in that pickup truck, he could have driven off and be long gone by now.
Donna's pleas were heart-wrenching. The following day, January 14th, the police were swamped with leads, following up on hundreds of tips, but nothing solid came through. Donna felt her hope waning. She felt powerless, unable to do any more for her daughter. Yet she knew giving up wasn't an option. The police had dedicated a unit to Amber's case, working tirelessly, around the clock. But as days turned into nights and back again, the initial surge of media attention began to wane, and fewer volunteers showed up to search. By the time more than 72 hours had passed since Amber's abduction, the grim reality began to set in. Many started to believe that the kidnapper might have taken Amber far away, possibly even to another state. Questions haunted the community and Amber's family. Who could have done this? Why Amber? Ironically, just 7 weeks before this nightmare, Amber had been part of a documentary focusing on her mother's life. The crew had followed Donna's every step, capturing the everyday life of a family trying to make ends meet. No one could have imagined that Amber would soon become the center of a much darker story, one that would capture the attention of the entire nation. So after the frantic search and all the heart-wrenching hope, the dreadful news came just 4 days later.
We interrupt this program to bring you the following News 8 special reports.
We have late developments into the Channel 8 newsroom, and it is a rather ominous development in the case of 9-year-old Amber Hagerman.
On January 17th, in the early morning hours, a man walking his dog near the Forest Hills apartments in Arlington stumbled upon a horrifying sight. The place was only a few miles from where Amber was abducted and about 3.2 miles from her grandparents' home. Behind the apartment building, there's a stream that had swelled up from a massive thunderstorm the day before. In this creek, the man found Amber Hagerman.
Police in Arlington, Texas, spent the night along a creek bed where a body was found before midnight. They have now confirmed the identity. Police say it is the body of 9-year-old Amber Hagerman.
This is my first grade.
Amber was reported kidnapped while riding her bicycle last Saturday. A witness said she screamed as a man picked her up and put her into a black pickup truck and drove away. Despite 4 days of intensive searching and hundreds of tips, no trace of her had been found. The body was discovered about 3 miles from the kidnap site by a man walking his dog along the creek after a storm.
The head was face down in the water. Most of the body was kind of crooked around a rock. The current was running fairly fast behind it.
After the discovery, police sealed off the home where the girl's family had been staying. They held out hope the body was not Amber's.
Worst case scenario, but I'm not believing it until I find out for sure. I'm not going to do it.
The investigation will continue to establish the location of the murder and the cause of death. And the search continues for the black pickup and the man wanted for the kidnapping and possible murder of Amber Hagerman.
She was submerged in the water, the creek running over her lifeless body. It seemed she might have been placed further upstream and floated down to where she was discovered. The place where they found her wasn't where she was murdered. She had been killed somewhere else. Later that night, at 11:41 p.m., the call that no one ever wants to receive was made to Arlington's dispatch. Amber's body had been found, just 4 miles from the spot she was taken. Donna, her mother, was devastated.
Apparently he was walking our dog and he had looked over the fence and had saw something white, looked again and noticed that it was a body.
I immediately knew something was wrong. And they started getting the yellow tape out, put it around my mom's home. I just went crazy then. I said, no, you're not going to tell me something that I don't want to hear.
She rushed to the scene, desperate to see her little girl one last time. But Amber was in such a terrible state that the police tried to shield her from the sight.
They told me one thing I can't do was pick her up and hold her like a mom would her child because she was almost decapitated.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry.
And I miss that. I wanted to hold her, but I got to hold her little hands and told her, it's okay. Mommy's here now. It's okay.
The tragedy of what happened to Amber was brutal. She had died from cuts to her neck, and she had been beaten and assaulted multiple times. Shockingly, while the assault was severe, it stopped just short of rape, which led to some early confusion in reports about what had happened to her. She was found wearing nothing but a single sock. The medical examiner discovered that Amber had been kept alive for at least 2 days after her abduction and did not die until January 15th, or possibly the 16th. Water from the creek had washed away almost all physical evidence, making the investigation even more challenging. However, some fibers found on her body were collected, hinting at a possible trail to follow. The Arlington Police Department kept details, especially about any DNA evidence, under wraps, which led to much speculation. Some thought that the police might have collected crucial DNA evidence, but nothing was confirmed. So after Amber's tragic disappearance and the grim discovery, the focus shifted to finding the person responsible. Jim Kevill, the only witness, gave a description of the abductor. He saw a man, possibly white or Hispanic, between 25 and 40 years old, with a medium build and not too tall, under 6 feet. He was driving a black pickup truck. Now, Jim admitted his eyesight wasn't the best, so everyone took his details with a bit of caution. The truck's color was a bit uncertain too, described variously as black, dark blue, or just black. Jim was the sole witness coming forward, but the police thought there might be more. They believed that customers at a nearby laundromat, frequently used by many immigrants, might have seen something. But whether due to fear or other reasons, these potential witnesses hadn't yet come forward. The police made it clear they just wanted to talk, no strings attached. Meanwhile, another local man mentioned seeing a black pickup cruising near a grocery store about half an hour to 45 minutes before Amber was taken. It was unclear if this was related, but it added another piece to the puzzling situation. In an attempt to crack the case, the FBI got involved and released a profile of the abductor, hoping it might help locals identify him. They described him as an opportunistic predator who likely targeted Amber simply because she was alone and easily accessible. This person was familiar with the Arlington area, indicating he might live or work nearby. The profile suggested he was under some personal stress, perhaps recently laid off, fired, or divorced. This stress might have triggered his actions. Furthermore, the FBI thought this man might have a history of crimes against children, and probably had a criminal record. His living situation was likely secluded enough to keep a child hidden for 2 days without raising suspicion, suggesting he didn't live in an apartment or similar setup. He might even live alone. While profiling isn't a surefire science, the FBI believed this fit the pattern of past crimes involving child abductions by strangers. This was a unique case in many ways, largely because everything suggested a stranger's abduction, something incredibly rare and frightening. The community was on edge, hoping that these details would lead to a breakthrough and bring justice for Amber. Now, after the devastating loss of Amber Hagerman was broadcast around the world, it ignited a storm of outrage in the community. With no suspects and no arrests, the monster responsible for Amber's death remained at large, a terrifying thought for every parent. The fear that this could happen to another child was palpable, heightening the community's anxiety.
What are we going to do to protect our children?
I'm terrified to let my children outside.
We're frightened. We're really scared.
As the police pressed on with their investigation, they released a detailed profile of the killer. They were looking for a white or Hispanic male in his 20s, with dark brown or black hair, not very tall, under 6 feet. This was the man they believed could be hiding in plain sight. The Amber Hagerman Task Force, formed specifically for this case, worked tirelessly to gather any information that could lead to an arrest. However, they faced significant challenges as most of the forensic evidence had been washed away by the rain on the night Amber was found. What they knew was that the suspect had fled from the Winn-Dixie parking lot in a black short-bed pickup truck, taking a left on East Abram Street at about 3:15 p.m., steering clear of the nearby highway. He had been careful not to leave fingerprints on Amber's bike as he snatched her under his arms. Adding to the shock, the creek where Amber's body was found was merely 4 miles from where she was abducted. This proximity raised unnerving questions. Could the abductor have lived nearby? Was it possible he used a different vehicle to transport Amber's body back to the area to avoid detection? How did he manage to move around in a residential area during the winter with no foliage to conceal his actions and still remain unnoticed? These questions haunted the investigation as the community struggled to make sense of the heinous crime that had taken place in their midst, hoping for answers that seemed just out of reach. After that terrible loss, her mother Donna found herself caught between grief and a desperate need for action. She could only imagine the horrors her daughter endured before her death, and it left her feeling utterly powerless. Wishing she could have been there to protect Amber, Donna's sorrow was profound. In the days and weeks that followed Amber's death, she allowed a documentary crew to continue filming, hoping to share her daughter's story The footage painfully captured how shattered Donna was.
Don't hurt my baby, please. She's just an innocent child, please. Amber, baby, if you're listening.
Curry got a frantic call from Donna.
She started telling me the details of what had happened, and I knew immediately that it was not good.
We're going to find your sister, and she'll be okay, I promise you.
WFAA released the footage of Amber to the world in hopes that it would help find her.
Nobody knows anything. That's the thing. We can't do anything.
Mama loves you. Hang on, sweetheart.
Despite her overwhelming grief, Donna's anger grew each day, but no arrests were made. But she knew that sitting back wasn't an option. She believed that the public could play a crucial role in solving the case. But as days turned into weeks, the leads began to dry up. Determined to seek justice and to ensure her daughter didn't die in vain, Donna used her voice to spark change. She appeared on television, advocating for harsher penalties for such heinous crimes.
When this man took my daughter, he took my dreams, my best friend.
Take your time, please. I know it's not easy.
Sorry. I would never, ever want another mother to have to go through what I had gone through, or another child be taken away. So as a mother, I am asking you to change the laws, protect all the children.
Her efforts also led her to testify in support of a bill to create a nationwide system to track sex offenders. Yet, a nagging question haunted Donna. Why had it taken so long for the public to be informed about Amber's abduction? Precious time had been lost, time that might have saved her. Donna wasn't the only one troubled by this delay. Amber's story eventually reached Diane Simone, a woman from Dallas with no background in broadcasting. Struck by a simple yet powerful idea, Diana contacted her local radio station. She asked, "If you can send out warnings for severe weather on the radio, why can't you do the same for child abductions?" She was convinced that if people had known to look for a black truck, the vehicle seen during Amber's abduction, someone might have spotted it. After all, Amber was taken in broad daylight. Diana's phone call sparked the creation of the Amber Alert System, named after Amber Hagerman. The system, formerly known as America's Missing Broadcast Emergency Response, was designed to quickly disseminate information about child abductions to the public. By the early 2000s, every U.S. state and 20 other countries had implemented the Amber Alert System. According to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, over 900 children in the U.S. alone have been safely returned home thanks to Amber Alerts. Now, in 2024, 28 years after Amber's abduction, no arrest has been made in her case. Despite this, Donna has never stopped searching for her daughter's killer.
I miss her every day, and she's just so full of life, and I want to know why. Why her? She was only a little girl.
I would love to be able to give Donna and Ricky and the rest of the members of their family the answer to the question that they would like to know. And of course, that is, who did this to Amber, and bring that person to justice.
Our hope is that someone in the community saw something. Maybe they didn't come forward 25 years ago out of fear or not wanting to get involved. Whatever reason, we need folks to search their minds and bring forward anything that may be valued to our investigation.
And to Amber's killer, I'm asking you today, please turn yourself in. Give Amber justice. Amber needs justice, deeply, deeply needs justice. And to anyone who has seen or heard anything about Amber's case, please come forward.
On a yearly basis, I talk with all the major laboratories around the country to see if there's any new technologies or anything that we could possibly be trying with the evidence that we have. And that is what's led to some new developments where we can try some things this year. I want to make clear here today, we believe this case will get solved. We believe that there's no way the killer in this case could have committed the crime in the manner that they did without someone seeing, hearing, or having some knowledge of what happened.
Although the case remains unsolved, Donna feels Amber's presence every time a child is found alive, thanks to an Amber Alert. The legacy of Amber lives on, with every child rescued continuing to make a difference.
I have a hole in my heart for her, and I wish I could hear her voice just one more time.
Every time Donna Williams sees an Amber Alert,
it's bittersweet.
She prays for the happy ending her own family will never see.
The bitter part, what if there was the Amber Alert, when my daughter was missing.
It's her daughter, Amber Hagerman, the alert is named after. Her kidnapping and murder in 1996 led to its creation.
I'm super proud of the Amber Alert.
Donna, alongside her son Ricky, continues to honor Amber's memory, taking pride in knowing that Amber's legacy aids in protecting other children. After all these years, the mystery of what happened to Amber Hagerman remains unsolved. It's been 28 years since that fateful day, yet the shadow of Amber's case still lingers. Her legacy, however, continues to make a profound impact. The Amber Alert system has become a crucial tool in the fight to bring abducted children home safely. But the question of who took Amber and why remains unanswered. What do you think happened to Amber Hagerman? Was she taken by one of the predators we talked about earlier? Could it be that the person responsible is already behind bars for another crime, unidentified as her abductor? Or is it still possible that her killer is still out there, walking among us, unidentified and unpunished? If you're as moved by Amber's story as everyone else is, please consider subscribing to our channel. By subscribing, you'll stay updated on such other cases. Thank you again for watching, and see you in the next video with another case. Until then, stay safe.